According to research, less than a quarter of people who use online dating apps are able to find a long-term partner through this process. And more than a third of people don't even get a single date. Today I'm going to talk about why these apps are so unsuccessful for most people. You are just a customer to them. See, I don't even need the stats to know that the effort to reward ratio with online apps is going to be pretty miserable. It's a very simple logic. Dating apps are a business, and they are a business that is based on returning customers. Like all businesses, their primary motive is profit. So if somebody continues to use their app for a long time, they make the most profit possible, particularly since most of these are a subscription service. If all of their clients were off getting long-term partners immediately, they would go out of business. The only way this kind of business can stay in business is that the people stay on the app repeatedly, that the new users are quickly pushed to become paying users, and that the paying users continue to remain paying users. If they had high churn, that is, if people regularly found partners and moved away from the apps, they would quickly go out of business, particularly as most users probably use the free option available depending on which app we're talking about here. That means the paid users have to carry the weight of all the marketing costs and everything for the app. And you've probably seen ads for these apps everywhere. They spend a lot of money on marketing. So those paid users need to stay on the app a long time just to recoup the costs of the advertising, let alone to make a profit for the company. So logically speaking, it's very, very unlikely that these apps have the primary purpose of finding you a partner because that would cost them. Simply put, they cannot afford for many of you to succeed. This sound like something familiar? Dating apps are basically the same thing as gambling machines. They're essentially no different from slot machines. Now, we all know that slot machines take your money and you don't win in the long term. We all know that the odds of scoring big on a slot machine is pitifully low, and yet they're still very prevalent, very popular, very addictive. Why? Why would we become so addicted to something that's so likely to fail? Well, we have to look at how they're built. Obviously, you can't just lose all the time because then people would think there's no point in using this thing. Of course, you can't win very often either because then the business would go out of business. So for a gambling machine to make a serious profit, they need to walk this very thin line, and that is you have to win sometimes, and you have to get the sense that you are going to win big soon. Essentially, the way dating apps and slot machines work is they give you the sense that the big win is just around the corner. You have to feel like putting the effort in and the money in is an investment, not a cost. You have to feel like you're building up towards something, that you're going to get a return on investment. You also need to believe that other people win, so that if you don't, it's considered to be something wrong with you. Either you're unlucky or unskilled or unattractive or whatever it is, so that you feel too shamed to write in a complaint or leave a bad review or tell other people not to use the thing. You have to feel like it's your fault. So these apps, and just like slot machines and any other gambling tool, have to make you feel like other people win often, that you sometimes win, so you're getting close, that you should be able to win big, and if you stay on there long enough to realize that you're not winning, you should feel like it's your fault. On top of all that, it should be fun to use the thing. There should be bright lights. It should feel like a game. It should give you a sense of excitement just looking at the thing. Particularly because if it's like that, you're not going to pay attention to how much you're investing or how much you're losing. In essence, they're trying to give you a sense of you are almost there. So everyone knows somebody or has heard of somebody or thinks that they've heard of somebody who won it big on a slot machine, got the jackpot, tens of thousands of dollars. Just like everybody knows someone or has heard of someone or thinks they've heard of someone who found their lifelong partner, the love of their life, through a dating app. So it seems like you're surrounded by people who succeeded with this thing, right? Like your turn's coming up next. Yet, when's the last time you took a moment to compare the effort to reward ratio? When's the last time you added up how many minutes you've spent on the apps, how many times you've swiped, how many dollars you've spent on them, how many matches you've got, how many matches actually led to conversation, how many conversation actually led to dates, how many dates actually showed up, and how many of those dates became a partner and was an ideal person for you. What's the effort to reward ratio here for you? Odds are you probably can't calculate that number because you have not been keeping track. But for anyone who's watching this, who's been on the apps and is still single, just notice that whatever effort you've put into finding a partner on these apps, the net result, zero. If you think of how many thousands or millions of people are on these various apps all around the world at the moment, and notice that you keep hearing about this increase in singledom, how people are struggling to find partners, people aren't having kids anymore. There's an increasingly large number of people staying permanently single. So why do we have this correlation where like everyone's on the apps and yet almost no one's finding a partner? What does that tell us about these apps? If they are really so successful, it should be hard to find a single person. Let's talk about the manipulation you're being subjected to here. The reason these apps feel like they work or that they're going to work eventually is because they play on your cognitive biases and logical fallacies. They basically use your mind, your psychology against you. There's a cognitive bias called the intermittent reward system. It's this weird thing that we've got in our brain where we get more excited by things occasionally going well in an unexpected way than we do by regular rewards. We get bored by regular rewards, by getting consistent wins. We get really excited by unexpected occasional wins that don't have any consistency in terms of their frequency or size. So what you get is, in a slot machine, if somebody who's spent $100 but then wins $10 back, just as they thought they were going to lose, they get really excited about that $10. They don't feel like they lost 90, which is the truth. Yet a person who's invested $10,000 and has got $1,000 in interest, they don't feel any major reward. They're just getting a consistent percentage interest on their investment. They don't get high off it. And yet they're up $1,000 and they feel less excited than the person who's down $90. If you've swiped 400 times on the app and you get one match out of nowhere with a girl that was a bit hotter than you were expecting, you get a big flush of excitement. You feel like you won. You feel like you're doing really well. This girl hasn't even gone on a date with you yet, and you feel like you've won. And yet your effort to reward ratio is something like 400 to 1. It's a terrible effort to reward ratio. 400 swipes to get one potential. Imagine how many swipes it takes to get a date. Imagine the ratio on that for most people. These people with their 400 to 1 or worse ratio will feel more successful than the guy who goes out and talks to 50 women and gets 3 dates, which is like a 20, 15 to 1 ratio. Much more successful. In other words, you're going to feel like you're winning when you're actually losing because you're being manipulated. Dopamine rush is the high we feel when we've almost achieved something or we feel pretty sure that it's going well. Often people think of dopamine as the reward you get when you actually succeed at something, but that's not quite what dopamine does. Dopamine's a motivational neurotransmitter. It gives us a sense to keep going because we're almost there. It's like a reward of the process rather than the result. So the people who make these apps are very aware of the effects of dopamine. They do everything they can to dump as much dopamine into your system as possible while you're using the apps. Just like slot machines, there's bright lights and high energy noises and pretty graphics that look like celebrations. You know, you get a green and a red there's the colors that you associate with winning and losing. When you get a match, the app makes a fucking deal about it as if you just found your soulmate. Not to mention, everyone's putting the most attractive pictures on it, so it's just nice to look through them. You're getting a hit every time. And the messaging platform looks very similar to any other messaging platform, so when you're texting someone on the app, it's like you're texting your partner. It all feels like you're there almost. And so as you start to pursue the goal, the original goal is probably to find some kind of partner. You actually lose sight of that and get addicted to the app itself. You start to have a relationship with the app and therefore the company who runs the app rather than a relationship with another human being. There are plenty of people on the apps, and I've heard so many complaints about this, who are clearly there just to have the fun of the app. And actually, when it comes to meeting someone in real life, that's when they flake and ghost. They're quite resistant to that. They like swiping, they like matching, they like chatting and getting complimented, but they don't like actually following through on something that might become real. They're in a relationship with the app, not with human beings. More than anything, these apps exploit your fear of rejection and abandonment. There's a critical moment in the dating process where you express interest in someone without knowing if they like you back yet. That high risk moment where you throw it all on the line to say, I like you more than a friend, and see if they return that. And if they do, it's the best thing ever. And if they don't, it feels like a rejection. Dating apps are designed to skip over that uncomfortable bit. And that's why they're so fucking popular. They've replaced expressing attraction and taking the risk of rejection with a gamification sequence that leapfrogs over that potential discomfort. Unfortunately, that significant moment is critical when it comes to building a relationship with someone and a connection with someone. That's the spark. That's the bit you remember where you went from nothing to something. That's the thing that starts it all. And you're replacing it with a machine, which means you're replacing connection with an online substitution of it so that you don't ever have to be afraid. This is the real reason you use apps. You're a coward. My guess would be, based on so much coaching with people in the dating phase of their life, less than 1% of users of apps actually have the bravery to go up and face rejection with someone in real life, sober. Because people who actually can face that fear or aren't afraid of rejection wouldn't bother with an app. They're surrounded by people all day, every day. They can just go out to the street and meet people. They can go to the dance class and meet people. They can go to the nightclub. They can go to the book club. They can go to the gym. They meet people anywhere. They don't need an app. Why would they do that? It's a waste of time. Half the people on those apps just flake anyway. Why would someone use an app? Because they want to leapfrog over that difficult bit, the bit that actually matters the most. You have been manipulated for profit. Yes, there is a percentage of people who find partners through apps, but they are the exception, not the rule, and they are doing this in spite of the apps, not because of them. I guarantee you take those same people, let me coach them on how to meet people in real life, they would have had even better success. They didn't need the apps. The fact that they actually found someone on those apps is kind of a miracle. Just like certain number of people do win, or a tiny number of people do make a profit on slot machines, they need that core of real winners to give all the losers hope. Remember, 66% of people report finding a date through an app. That means 34% people didn't even get a date. And then 23% of people report finding a long-term partner through the app, which means only 70% of people did not. We don't actually know how good those relationships are in the 23%. But if other statistics give us anything to go by, about half of those are not going to work out, maybe more. In other words, dating apps are kind of a terrible place to meet people, but they're a great way to make money off desperate, single, afraid people. So what do you do instead? Well, it's as simple as it is terrifying. Meet people in real life. Really. I know it's scary. I know. I know that's why you're on the app. But building the bravery to meet and express attraction to real people in real life is one of those critical self-development activities you could ever engage in. It'll conquer most of your fears. It will set you up to have the bravery needed to start your own business and raise a child. It's conquering all the greatest, deepest evolutionary fears that we're born with around ostracism and fitting in with the tribe. To go up to someone and just say, I think you're attractive, I wanted to say hi, is one of the most significant moves you can ever make in your life. If you can become fearless around doing that, the whole world opens up to you. And the thing is, you don't have to go from 0 to 100. You can desensitize yourself to this slowly. I've got a whole podcast on that. You can get in touch with me if you want that podcast, how to build this up. But in simple terms, you just fill your calendar with social activities, classes and clubs and parties and whatever it is you're into. Make sure there's 3 or 4 group activities that you're going to every week based on doing an activity that you love. That should be the primary motive, but also filled with your kind of people. And then introduce yourself to people there and slowly increase your courage in terms of expressing interest. You'll get so much more return on investment than you would using an app. And that doesn't even include the return on investment for your own self-development, your confidence building, your social skills, your communication, your overall enjoyment of life. It's just such an obviously better choice.